In this video, we're going to take a look at how to use a formula to calculate volume. So volume is the amount of space that a 3D shape takes up. We're going to take a look at a few different shapes. The first one we're going to start with is a rectangular based prism. So in this section of our table, you can see an example of the shape, and it shows the different dimensions that we're going to be using in our formula. So to calculate volume of a rectangular based prism, volume is equal to the length times the width times the height. So we have an example over here we're going to try. You can see we have L, W, and H, length, width, and height, which we need to identify in order to use our formula. So the length and width are the two bottom sections here. It doesn't really matter which one you put in. So I'm going to use 4 centimeters for the length, 2 centimeters for the width, and the height is 7 centimeters. Now, if this rectangular prism were turned around, because every single side is a rectangle, it really doesn't matter for each of these which one of the numbers you put where. So we'll start with our volume formula. Volume is equal to length times width times height. And now I'm going to substitute in my values. So length is 4 centimeters, width is 2, and the height is 7. And then I'm going to input that into my calculator. 4 times 2 times 7, and that is equal to 56. Now, when we are talking about volume, we're talking about a 3-dimensional shape. So our shape here is going to be taking up space in this dimension, and then also popping out of the screen at you. So 3 different dimensions. So over here are units for each single dimension with centimeters. Our volume is going to be in centimeters cubed. So we have a 3 because we have 3 dimensions that our shape is taking up space in. The next question we're going to take a look at is a triangle-based pyramid. So that has a triangle on 2 sides across from each other, and then the other sides are all rectangles. So our formula to calculate a triangular-based prism is B times L times H divided by 2. So the B and the L, if we take a look at the triangle on one side, the L is really the height of that triangle, and the height of the triangle goes from one corner of the triangle to the base, the side that is opposite it. So the base is one side of the triangle, and the L is the height from that to the point across from it. So in this question over here, we have our triangle over here. This is our height of the triangle, which is called L, and then we have the base of the triangle, B. So our base is 4 centimeters. The L, which is the height of the triangle, is 6 centimeters. And the height of the entire shape, so that's the distance between the 2 triangles, that is 12 centimeters. So my volume is equal to the B times L times H divided by 2. Now I'm going to substitute in those values. So B is 4, L is 6, H is 12, and I'm going to divide all of that by 2. When I plug that into my calculator, 4 times 6 times 12 divided by 2, the answer is the volume of this shape is 144 centimeters cubed. So once again, cubed because this is a 3 dimensions. So all volume is measuring space in 3 dimensions, so it's always going to be whatever your units are cubed. In this case, our units were centimeters. The next example we'll take a look at is a square-based pyramid. So the bottom shape is a square, and then we have triangles on each side coming from the square, meeting up at a point. So on here, we have the sides of the square are called B for base. And then from the very center of the square up to the tip of the pyramid, that is called h for height. And then on any one of the triangles, the height of that triangle is called the S, or the slant height. Now that is not in this formula. That's something that we will need for the surface area, but not for the volume. So we don't need the S for calculating volume. So the base in this example here is 25, and the height is 29.5. Now here we don't have units, so we're just going to use numbers. So volume for a square base period is the base squared times the height, and then divided by 2. We'll substitute in our numbers. So our base was 25. We'll need to square that. If your calculator doesn't have a square button, then you're just doing 25 times 25. And that's going to be multiplied by 29.5, and then divide it all by 2. So into your calculator, 25 times 25 times 29.5 divided by 2, and our answer is 9,218.75, which we can round to 0.8. Now, I didn't have units, so I'm just going to actually write the word units, and they are going to be cubed because it's volume. Next shape is a cone. So here we have a circular base, and then coming up to a point. Our radius is the radius of that circle, so half of the distance across the circle, or from the very center of the circle out to an edge. And then the height is from that very center of the circle up to the tip of the cone. The S is again the slant height, but we don't need that to calculate volume. We'll need that for surface area. So in our example here, our radius is 3 and our height is 9. And we can see the volume of a cone is equal to pi times r squared times h divided by 3. Pi is 3.14. Our radius is 3. We need to square that, and then we'll multiply by the height, which is 9. And then divide all of that by 3. So into your calculator, 3.14 times 3 times 3 times 9 divided by 3. And when we plug that in, we get 84.78. We can round that to 84.8. And once again, we didn't have units, so we're just going to write the word units, and they are cubed because it's a 3-dimensional object. And our last example is a cylinder. So for a cylinder, we need the radius, just like the cone before, and the height is the distance between the two circles. So our radius in this example is 3.5. The height is 5. Our volume from our formula here is pi r squared h. So we have 3.14. R is 3.5. We'll square that and multiply by 5. So into your calculator, 3.14 times 3.5 times 3.5 times 5. And that will round to 192.3. Once again, no units, so we'll write the word units, and they are cubed. So these are the 5 different shapes that we will be calculating volume for. You have lots of examples here, or lots of practice questions to calculate for. Now, for the cylinders and cones, be careful. Sometimes you're given the radius, sometimes you're given the diameter, and none of the formulas for volume ask for diameter. They always ask for radius. So if it's 8 all the way across, then halfway across for the radius here would be 4 yards. So be careful with that you are making any calculations that you need to calculate your radius if you are given the diameter. And I don't think any of the cones give you the slant height, they all give you the height, so you don't need to use Pythagorean theorem here to calculate that. But once again, if you have a diameter, you'll need to calculate the radius by dividing it by 2. And you can check your answers in Content Library. So you can come up to the measurement section in Content Library and find this page, and you'll see answers to each of these questions to check your work.